All right, welcome everybody. Thank you for being here. With Campbell and Lorenzo today, and we're doing Dreaming Our Destiny Part 4. This is episode 81 for my channel, and we're titling it Self-Education, which is a really cool topic. So as we have autodidactic here, which is that's what that means. So welcome, Campbell. I've never got to do a video with you, so I appreciate the opportunity to connect, brother. Good to see you.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah,
Good
man.
to be here. Yeah, good to see you again.
Totally. Yeah, San Diego was amazing, and glad we all got to meet up. That was a wild run. So
It was good.
totally. And Lorenzo, how are you doing today,
Good,
sir?
good. Relaxed, feeling groovy. It's a good topic, one it's close to my heart. Campbell and I have discussed around this topic and directly through it for probably close to 100 videos at this point. So it's great to have you the opportunity to discuss this with you as well, Joel.
Cool. Yeah, I'm open to what you guys can teach me on this subject. I think as I was reflecting on the title, I was looking back and remembering like I was a pretty serious little kid and kind of like really worried about getting good grades, and I was really into it, like, but then these class clowns like just started cracking me up, and I started really admiring their freedom, that they didn't care and that they could make fun of the teacher and they weren't worried about their homework. And I just saw a lot of freedom in that, and it really inspired me and shifted my perspective on what kind of where my priorities were. And over time, I gravitated toward the more adventurous people and really I didn't let indoctrination really happen, because I just was more focused on the adventure of meeting people. And I started partying early, and I started doing psychedelics at a young age. So I was ended up going into the forest to get my education because we were into shamanism at a young age. So um, I haven't really ever given school much attention, but I have learned so much from people like yourselves and other people that share information online. And so I think since 2020, I've had a real shift in what I was focused on. And I started learning a lot about more and more things because of kind of we reached a unique point in time where it was kind of like, oh, I might want to be more informed about how in depth the indoctrination is. And so it's been a good journey, quite a concentration of stuff. But you guys have been sharing your channels for a lot longer than I have, and I appreciate all the time and dedication you've put into it, because it takes it takes all types, and people are called to different subjects and gravitate toward zoning in particular areas. So thank you both for all that you've shared. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Yeah. Yeah, well, my channel's called Autodidactic, means to be self-educated. And my experience in school was I went to 7 schools in like 4 states. Dad was in mining, so I never was really there long enough to get indoctrinated. So it wasn't even really, a choice for me. So I was lucky that way. But what I found when I was young, and it was mainly to do with Christians, is that they preach one thing and they dress up for Sunday, but then they live their lives nothing like Jesus would, right? Like they don't practice what they preach. And then listening to other people, this is when I was little, people were always embellishing what they were and what they were doing, and and basically lying,
Mm.
right? And so when I was young, I kind of got this concept that everyone was just everyone was fake, right? None of it was real. And I think that's what set me off on my journey of wanting to know, right? Wanting to know, what is this place? What is real? Why are people like this? How can they not just see these simple things? And so yeah, that was sort of what set me off on my journey of learning. And when I came across the word autodidactic, I was just like, oh, love that word. It became my favorite word. And then putting it out as the channel, it's been great because not many people have heard that word, and now they associate it with self-education. They're like, yep, I want to do that. And so I think, yeah, like you said, just being ourselves, we've all got little truths, we've all got a piece of the puzzle, and if we get it out there, then it's going to affect some people, right, and hopefully help them on their journey.
Mm.
Yeah,
Absolutely. And what a great way to meet people too. Like all the people we meet just by putting ourselves out there. I was never going to do this. I'm so glad I did, because it just completely created a whole new network and people like yourselves, and it's just growing. And and it kind of reaches a point where it gets to be like, oh, there's a lot of potential with these communities that are growing, and they're all really great people. I mean, you find out there's some drama and some soap opera stuff that comes in, but we learn a lot from that too. So yeah, what a trip to have access to these tools like these computers and this ability to get on a call from, we're all in totally different parts of the world. And yeah, it's been I'm glad you stepped out. I'm glad both of you did. How long have
Yeah.
you been in doing your thing, Lorenzo?
Ah, well, I've been publishing, we did the New Agora print for 11, 12 years. I've been
Yeah.
online fully for 4 years. And then before that, I did another community newspaper in Toronto. And so I've been doing this for 30 years since I stepped, out of Toronto and into Mexico, so to speak, following the Castaneda books. I mean, what I find is fascinating about this is like my experience in school is very different from both of your experiences. Like I dove headfirst into studying as deep and as much as I could because I was told I needed an education
Yep.
and I needed to make money. So like I did it, and then I realized, well, it's not enough. Right. So then I went the other way. First 30 years I went that way, the next 30 years I went the other way. And what's beautiful about self-education, and if people consider it, even from a reasonable sort of perspective, nobody knows what you need. Nobody knows what Joel needs. Nobody knows what Campbell needs. Nobody knows what I need. In some ways, you have no choice. If you want to be free, if you want to have a good life, literally, it's not like it's a great idea, or maybe we should consider it, or it's a good philosophy. It's like quite literally, nobody is the same as anyone else, even close to completely. And so, literally, in my opinion, you have no choice but to educate yourself if you want to have a good life, because only you know what you really need to know.
Mm, love it. Yeah, brother. Yeah, and especially like the calling for alternative experiences, like the Castaneda material has been my focus and as well. And it completely, as I revisit it over and over again, it's such a magical body of knowledge. And so finding things that are alive, it seems like there's knowledge sitting there like the never-ending story, waiting for somebody to pick it up and make the story alive. Right. So like knowledge is, shamans say that they have a romance with knowledge. Knowledge becomes their purpose. And it's not knowledge like information, it's a relationship with what they call silent knowledge. And that's what's starting to happen to a lot of us is we don't need to, it's not like we're remembering it. It's coming out of us. It's now a part of us. We've integrated these understandings and it's shifted our perception so that we're not no longer under hypnosis like the majority. And that creates this whole weird dynamic with learning how to interact, how to learn from the messengers in the world, whether people call them NPCs. I think they're it's like the Matrix where the agents are just being used, but deep down, if you scratch under the surface, it's the raw material of awareness is there.
Mm.
And I think we're in a perfect situation. Like Jason Breshears refers to this as an obstacle course, and it actually will offer the training ground for us to become what we're destined to become, which dreaming our destiny is the subject here as well. And yeah, we're none of us are lab rats. Everyone's unique. Everyone's got a different input and output and relationship with trauma or shadow experiences. So what they're going to be called to unearth, what body of knowledge they're going to gravitate towards is going to be unique. And it's sad that a lot of people spend their life trying to copy somebody else, or be like they don't ever get to become or experience their own authentic feelings because they're overriding their natural process. And so that's a lot of what this is for me, is even putting myself out there was a relationship with my ego and like how is my wife going to see this, and how are people going to respond? Like, this guy from high school, what the fuck's he doing on YouTube? And letting all that go and just, really experiencing and observing the opportunity to free myself from how other people see me has been a big breakthrough as well.
Yeah. I think that's huge. Like with my channel, I didn't like sit and sort of plan to make a channel. I just made a video one day and put it up.
Oh,
Like
cool.
then there was no even thought at that point of even doing a second one. Or I just found something cool, Star Forts. When I was like, whoa, I've never seen this. Maybe people will be interested. Because I was, and it just evolved, right? Like from the first video, it just kind of took off, and so yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Even getting into it, I wasn't so much thinking, I was just thinking, oh, these are just random people that I don't know watching. And then I had a meet up and someone from school was there. And I was like, oh my God, people I know are watching it. And then you've got to go through that whole thing of, your ego, right? Or your self-worth or whatever you want to put it through. Am I really supposed to be doing this? Am I putting myself out there? Is what I'm saying valid? Is this actually, giving value to the system, or am I just, doing it for likes and all? So it's a big, I
Yeah.
think that you go through a big mental kind of process, and I think at the end, at the crux of that is thinking for yourself, right? That is being self-educated, because if you're in the system, you're literally just doing it for the likes, right? And then everyone's telling you you're awesome, you've got lots of likes and lots of subs and all this stuff. But every time I make a video, like, I'm always like, is that good enough? Is that worth putting out? And live streams, like, they're not easy, right? To go live, because I don't script anything, right? I'm pretty much, it was like you were talking about before, all the information is to come into us, right? We're just kind of receivers, and I think they're all different frequencies, and as we attune to that, we embody it, and then we can go to accept more frequencies. So it's an interesting ride, but I think, yeah, at the end, self-educated is what we call awake, right?
Mm.
Because if you're not that, you're believing the system. And that's really your choice, right? Like, do you want to just believe what other people tell you, knowing that it's 99.999% opinion,
Yeah.
And they don't know? Or do you want to think for yourself and make the decision? Like, see, people think it's harder to do that, but I don't. Because look at the alternative, man. Like, you die sad and broke, right?
Totally. Yeah. I mean, the word self, sovereign, like to become sovereign is to become have your own relationship with source. Where in religion, you're expected to talk to somebody that can talk to God for you, or all these different weird, and the same with education. It's like they really created a condition. It was really well thought out too, how to indoctrinate people, how to make them useful slaves. So we're really liberating ourselves, not just with the process of having our channels, but by being curious, remaining open, being able to admit we might have something we thought we understood, but we totally were wrong. Like that's what I think makes somebody teachable. Like carpentry is hard to teach. It's hard to teach an old dog new tricks. But if you find somebody that's willing to learn and willing to learn a different system, then their life is going to expand just from their curiosity. So, yeah, I think these are really cool ways in which we learn about ourselves and how we respond to situations like going live. Like it takes courage. It takes courage to do a lot of things in life, and 90% of it is showing up. And a lot of people avoid any situation that would be uncomfortable, and therefore there's not a lot of growth because they're not expanding their resiliency. So, yeah, I think
No, I'm happy you mentioned uncomfortable. And I'm also happy that the three of us have in various ways touched base on the recapitulation,
mm,
which is an inner self-education. Like a
mm,
lot of people I've chatted with about self-education will understand the world out there has shared a lot of untrue facts, we'll put it politely, and a lot of BS and indoctrination. But it takes a different sort of courage, even a deeper sort of courage, to actually do a recapitulation and then to self-educate yourself about yourself, to
mm,
go another level deeper and to see who you are, how you are, how you've already been indoctrinated so that you can untwist yourself, and go the other way. And that's a course or a lifetime study. You're recapitulating your whole life, and most people won't do that because you really, as you've said just a moment ago, Joel, you have to see where you were wrong. As Campbell says, lots where you've stuffed up, where you've made mistakes, where you've been an a-hole to yourself and others, and to accept that as your honest truth, and then I've noticed the three of us are laughing and smiling because, you know, people have misinterpreted what a recapitulation is good for. I think it's good for your humor and enjoyment and your power and your ability for comedy personally, because when you aren't afraid to play the clown, isn't that what Don Juan said or Castaneda said? Then you're basically a superhero in this
Mm.
world because you don't care if someone makes fun of you, yells at you, calls you names. You know, you keep going and you learn what you need to learn through those challenges, and that's what, you know, grows even beyond what you can imagine is
Mhm.
possible, I would say.
Mm. Dude, I love it. Thank you. That's yeah. I think I've also heard it said that no one, if you're willing to be a fool, nobody can make you turn you into one, right? Like when you truly don't care, like you could be the court jester, you could be the one to make fun of the king and the queen. Like that used to be a requirement that there was comedy, that there was humor in order to keep our sanity, and we've become so like, especially like flat Earth debates, like people are so invested and get so upset around being right, and there's just no curiosity. It's just like a fucking battle, and it's so incredible to watch. Like marriages are breaking up, everybody's going through this stuff over this subject, this one powerful subject, right? So if we can laugh at that, if we can see through what's happening to even the people that we're friends with, the truther community does this. They get in a situation where they're defending something instead of being able to just really see the personal freedom that comes with the reflection of those experiences. So yeah, recapitulating, going back and reviewing what shamans call stalking yourself, where you get to know the way your behavior has been um, rigid, where you see, the mindset that you were in and how it created the life that then manifested. And then you take full responsibility rather than being in victimhood around the elite did this to me, or those motherfuckers, like my friend wanted to literally kill Bill Gates, and he like had to go to the mountains and like scream for days because he'd let this idea of this, that if he could just get rid of this one guy, everything would be okay. And it's just crazy to watch. Like we're in a real theatrical performance in which actors on a stage. We're following our feelings and guiding us to our characters. But shamans learn to like let go of all that and drop their consciousness to such a deep place that they access these other layers of the onion, and then they come back much more curious and with more wonder and interest as to how they can use their time here, rather than uh, like we're like copying someone or trying to achieve a certain result. Day to day you follow your feelings and it guides you in a much more natural process.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. I think at this point I have to say my little quote. The statue's not finished when there's no more to add. The statue's finished when there's no more to take away.
Mm,
So life is literally a process of peeling back the crap, right? And that's just all stuff that's been put on us by the system, parents, friends, peers, all this kind of stuff, and we take it on, and then you'll hit a point where you realize a lot of it's not true, not good, and then it's a process of peeling back. But you've got to be able to admit you're wrong. And this is a thing that people just, have such an issue with. And we see it today. We're all like, how do these people keep buying, what they're saying? And it's because they've invested their whole lives in it. Everything, who
yeah.
they are, career, everything that they define themselves as is invested in the system. So, the last thing they want to do is admit to themselves that their whole life was a lie and they were wrong. But I mean, again, what's the option? You just keep doing that with the knowledge that it's the wrong thing, or you make a change.
Yeah.
Just be like water, right? Be fluid.
Mm,
And
absolutely.
people need to access their superpowers. I would find. I mean, with self-education. I mean, when you educate yourself and you go deep. I mean, what's our imagination for? What's our will for? What's our intent for? Like, why are you here? Why were you born? I mean, going back as far as you can, even further, maybe. To figure out your life's purpose, if you like. Campbell and I have talked about that many times. Your destiny, your dreaming. I mean, what does destiny mean?
Mm,
Maybe you need to uncover that for yourself, and by using your imagination, maybe you need to create your destiny, which would be the ultimate, I would guess, in self-education. Is you have to educate yourself as to what you're going to educate yourself about, what your destiny is and why you're here or why you choose to be here. I mean, it's an amazing release of
mm,
stress, towards freedom, but you have to be willing to, as Campbell said and Joel said, and we've said 1,000 times, if you're not wrong, you can't be right, especially if you don't like your life. You have to see how you made the the bricks that you need to take apart, or else you can't take them apart, and you're the one that mortared them together.
Mm.
For your fault, man.
It's all your fault. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and then going through the stages of learning to truly release any shame or guilt around anything, and accepting and understanding how these things are passed on. It our parents raise us without knowing, and they literally hand us over to a system of indoctrination, and so that we will fit in, right? And essentially, shamans, Toltecs, they cut ties with people like that. They spend time away from that blueprint, at least for a period of years, usually, because there's this weird aspect of our being that always wants our fathers. As men, we want our father's recognition on some level, or there's usually some sort of weird energetic shadowy aspect of our unconsciousness that manifests out into our situation, where we end up really having to face the way in which we are like our parents. And that's a disturbing reflection to have to counter. It's very like, okay, I
Okay.
can use that. Yeah, but when you work with a powerful partner, and you see their shadow and they see yours, and they're reflecting the areas in, because we all go into autopilot mode, and we all are patterned in. And so the beauty of doing this kind of research, or unlearning, I call it, um is that you're undoing, you're unbinding, you're cutting cords, you're saying, I didn't agree to this, and I'm going to rescind that agreement because I was forced into this contract. I didn't choose it. And that there's a lot of sovereign freedom and power, and a lot of people are doing that on the lawyer level with the new, these people are freeing themselves from the system entirely by researching that. And that can be a whole thing that their ego can get identified with too, like, oh, now I've done this and you guys aren't free and I am. And so, like, all it's just, there's a trap everywhere you look, right? It is, we're always going to be dealing with our ego. It's going to continue to give us a chance to get to know the human condition. And then you stop judging people, and you see the richness in the tragedy. You see the richness in all of it. It's all really, it will move your perception when you are just a witness. But if you're thinking, oh, that person's so fucked up, and da, 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 and you're just constantly controlling, like telling yourself a story about what you're seeing, there's so much more to witness if you stop talking to yourself and just take it all in.
Yeah, man. It's all judgment, isn't it, really? That's what people, and they're doing it to prove to themselves that what they're doing is right and they're the best, and they're on even though they go home and cry themselves to sleep. But this is the nature of the society and the mind, right? Like it's the hive mind that
Yeah.
we get indoctrinated that you be part of the hive, right? Be part of, do what everyone else does. Just join the system and get your house and blah 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 blah, and then die broke. Um,
Yeah.
but like, yeah, to be self-educated is to be able to just look at that and ask questions, right? And this is what it all comes back to. We tend to say the same thing a lot, but it's just introspection, right? Leaving the world behind. Interesting movie, by the way. And going inside, right? And finding newer horizons, but also trusting yourself.
Mm.
Trusting that your thoughts are right, and it doesn't mean they're right for everyone. They're just right for you. So another thing, like you said, people just get stuck. We've seen it in the flat Earth, right? All these people who did believe it was a ball, then they suddenly believe it's flat, and then they yell at everyone else, how can you not see it? And it's like, well, you didn't see it for 20, 30, 40 years, so come on. But now there's new concepts coming out. So what do? Get stuck there, and then they can't go further. So like you said, all this judging things as good or bad,
Right.
what it does is it's judging them as positive or negative, right? So it's giving them charge, a positive charge, and so it's literally putting them in charge of you.
Mm.
When we judge these things as right or wrong, we're stuck. We can't go forward on that subject because we're right, right? Everyone else is wrong.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're handing your power over to it, and you said charge. It's the same concept, but
Yep.
that's interesting.
Mm,
Looking even at Jesus, since it's Christmas, that he who is without sin, throw the first stone. I mean,
Yeah,
that's all judgment. Your friend, who was angry with Mr. Gates, and I knew another YouTuber who freaked out at me when I said, there is, karma is what you make and how your life is treating you. And he goes, oh, if there was real karma, Bill Gates would be dead with, his feet missing and dying of hunger with, all his teeth pulled out. I go, how do you know?
yeah,
How can you sit here and judge? I don't know Bill Gates. Is he a real person? He would be an AI creation from the monsters that rule. I have no idea because I've never met the man and I've only seen what's been put out in the public, arena. And to say that this has to happen to them, as you said, or this has to happen to them, is such an egotistical missing of the purpose of your life, right? In understanding what you need to do. I mean, if you don't like something about somebody, like Bill Gates or other people, best thing to do is to mirror that and see, well, how is that like me? How am
yeah,
I like that? How am I trying to control the world? How am I trying to tell other people what to do? How am I trying to take all the money, let's say, and reimagine the food source or whatever? I mean, that's been a beautiful freeing thing of myself over the last few months and my self-education is when I've seen something I don't like in someone to take a moment and go, okay, how am I like that?
yeah.
And then to grow from there.
Yeah, you wouldn't be triggered unless there was something within you that is being impacted by that reflection. And that's a hard thing for people to even consider. They're just like, "What do you mean?" Like,
Yeah, what do you mean?
yeah,
try telling people it's all their fault, man. They lose it. Like they can't go there.
Uh,
yeah,
But the thing is, you go and say that to someone who's living their perfect life, and they're like, "Yes, it is all my fault. Bloody oath, I created all of this." So it's an
yeah,
interesting little thing. But yeah, people. I mean, it's responsibility in the end, isn't it? People like don't want to be responsible and say, "Yeah, I created this. It sucks." And
mm,
so guess what? It's only me that can change it again. But I mean, to me, that's where the power is, right? Like I don't understand why people see that as a bad thing. I mean, that's the ultimate power. You can change it.
mm,
You can do what you want, right?
mm,
And I think it is self-evident that we do create, But like we see, people who are angry and the world sucks and all this, they tend to spiral down, right? Well, they all spiral down over time. So and they're creating that.
yeah,
And so, if you understand that you are creating it, you can maybe start self-reflecting and saying, "Oh, why is this happening?" And it's like Lorenzo was saying, and everything's a mirror. Everyone's a mirror. This is happening because I did this. Why is this person triggering me? Oh, because this part of me is what I see in them. I mean, but there's that saying, we like people because what we see in them we like in ourselves, and we dislike people because what we see in them we dislike in ourselves. So everyone is a mirror.
mm. Everyone. Yeah, and the word responsibility, I'd never thought of it, but able to respond.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Ability
It's
to, yeah,
yeah. So like people that either are victims or victors. They are not able to typically operate in the neutrality of that in between. And including myself, I vacillate from not being worthy enough to being, oh, I've got this figured out. But it's hard to stay in that in between zone, and that's where that judge where you're able to suspend judgment, not only with others but with self. And there's a lot of self-love that happens. There's a lot of healing that just like emotions and like a weight comes off of you in stages because you really coming out of that patterning, and it's almost like there was some sort of construct that you were attached to and you don't have to carry it anymore. And so that's how I think of this realm, as a construct, as a phantom projection. And then we take it so seriously, but if we treated it like a dream, then we would learn dreaming and we would be able to go into other dreams. And so we enable ourselves, which is that able to respond. And then that responsibility, it's impossible to remain as a victim if you're taking responsibility for everything and not handing your power over to someone else by blaming them or praising them. A lot of people are into worship. They worship truthers, they worship religion, they worship Jesus, they worship something out that's separate from themselves. And it's cool to honor Jesus if he existed, or honor these different people potentially, but worship is very much, or the devotees, it's just so crazy to watch how it all plays out with all the different archetypes. It's a fascinating thing, and it's not, according to the Toltecs, it's not just here in this layer. You can go into the layer of like this realm where everybody's bathing in light, white light, and they're praising, and there's like these other worlds where people, dreamers, actually get caught. They get suspended in the feeling of this connection and harmony, but it's just another trap. Just like it took Carlos a lot of effort to not get swayed when Don Juan would help him visit these places. He'd have to pull him out of there because he was like, oh my God, this is heaven. And so, but it was just a one area that dreamers learn to go to and make observation about the nature of human behavior. And so we are not alone, and there's other beings doing other things, but we all operate from similar dynamics, and there's so much to learn from each other because of it.
You're muted, Campbell.
Sorry. We have this concept of giving your energy away, don't give your energy away, blah, blah, blah. And that's literally what happens when we, worship, have gurus, or hate intensely. We're sending out cords of energy and attaching ourselves to them. And it literally is sucking our energy, right? It's taking that away from us, but it's also keeping that influence. It's like, where attention goes, energy flows. Once you put enough attention on anything, you've built a tunnel of energy that's connected to it. And until you sever that, it's going to be sapping your energy, but also it's two-way, right? It's going to be feeding that thought process back to you, which is just going to make it more intense, and it's this big spiral down, sort of motion. So be very careful with, it's like they say, you become like the five people you most associate with. Be careful who you're giving your energy to, and think of yourself that it's without your energy, and in 100% or as close to that as you can be, who can you really help? You've got to help yourself first and be in that kind of person, before you can really go out and do because a lot of people want to go out and change the world at the moment, and I'd say change yourself first, and just by doing that you're changing the world, because guess what, people will be watching and they're like, oh, they changed, how did you do that? And off you go. But life's an inside job, right? Sorry, there's a few flies around here.
Yeah.
I mean, I have seen what's really interesting is why people just don't understand. I mean, if the world is horrible and sucks and it's challenged, and there's the viral shenanigans and the monetary shenanigans and the warming shenanigans and the sex change shenanigans that Campbell did a video on recently, and all these other shenanigans going on, it's like, why don't you like accept the fact that you're here because you're strong. You're here because you can face all of this. You were born, or you chose to be born into crazy parents, crazy circumstances, a crazy part of the world, because that is the challenge. You accept it, the mission before you came here, that you said, yes, I want to go here. I want to be a hero. I want to, like, I mean, if you're not getting over the hardest things, you can't be the biggest hero, the bravest man, the strongest member of your community, the pillar that stands there when all else breaks apart or breaks towards it. Says, are you sure you don't want to follow monsters? Are you sure you don't want to, become 500 pounds because, the media says it's beautiful now? Or, are you sure you don't want to chop your bits off because, you were born in the wrong body because, somehow when you were 12, you decided you didn't know how to be a man or a woman? I mean, to accept the responsibility of how fantastic you can be, to me is the ultimate goal of self-education. And if you haven't figured that out yet, maybe you need a little bit more self-education.
Yeah, and it's inside, isn't it? People so often try to change the outside.
Yeah.
I want to be successful. I need the car and the house. I want to be buff, so I need the abs. I want to be, this and that, wearing, makeup and designer clothes and all this stuff, eating out at expensive restaurants that sell bad food. You see it all the time, but it doesn't change anything. If anything, people probably look at you more like, oh, well, what are they doing? But if you change yourself inside, then all that is, it becomes, it just comes naturally, right? It's a result of you changing. And it's because everything ultimately is energy. And we've got to, people want things, right? They want new experiences. So to do that, you need to change, which means you need to change, what you're putting out. for things to change, things have to change. And it seems like such a simple concept, right? But people just don't seem to be able to get it. You know, you need to stop what you're doing and start to do something different if you want something different. It's all fairly basic if people sit down and just think about these things, which is another thing people don't do, right? Is ponder. There's
Right.
no more pondering anymore. People just don't sit and think. There's too much information coming in, and they're on their phone, and they're but
Yeah.
I think we need to take some time out and just listen to ourselves and ponder.
Yeah, contemplate. And I tell people boredom, if you can go experience some boredom, do it, like, because it's just intensity. It's just like if you really just sit in the room and do nothing and just like look at everything and don't do anything, and give yourself that intense experience. That the shamans call it not doings, the not doings that free you from the doings of the world, and it's incredibly liberating. It'll shift your perception significantly. But it's so confronting. These things are not comfortable at first, because the mind requires, in order for this hive mind, which we all have a part of, you have to be aware of it like a radio channel, and learn how to turn it off for periods of time, and then allow your imagination and creativity to come forward. And so sitting alone in a dark room can become a very powerful experience, especially if you're on mushrooms, right? But if you can do it without mushrooms, right, then you've really gained a resource. If you have access to those unique states of perception because you've just learned how to stop your mind without the power plant helping you. Because all the power plant does is it floods you with so many feelings that it forces your mind to stop so that you can feel them. Or you have a bad trip because you couldn't properly navigate that flood of feeling. And so we can do this the long road. We can get into these deeper places of ourself, just by switching something up. Like you said, break pattern, change something that is, kind of where your ego is identified with. And a lot of people think that in order to get the girl or to keep their wife or to do all the things, that they have to maintain their identity. And there's a way to really, really evaluate all that stuff and how much energy is going toward maintaining that. And it's unnatural. It's very liberating when you realize that you don't have to uphold anybody's expectations, and you start to follow your feelings to deeper and deeper places. Then yeah, that contemplation, that pondering, it's like you really enjoy being alone and you start to almost prefer it, right? And that can get a little scary because you're like, wow, well, this is I keep spending more and more time alone, and it's, people are gonna think, or whatever. But if you really listen, there's a time for doing that, and it's eventually you'll be kicked out of the nest again. But it's okay if you're in a place where you're being really feeling like that's the resetting of your nervous system. um, so often people I work with, as clients, they have all these things going on, and there's pretty obvious, simple things they could do with their living situation or with their lives that would completely transform their story. But they're often holding on as that thing is necessary. It's like a lifeline to the matrix, and they know that you kind of become a threat because you're suggesting one little simple change that would transform their life, but they come up with all the excuses in the world why that's not an option. It's crazy to watch, but you learn a lot from it.
Yeah, man. Well, the brain wants to, or the mind wants to prove us right all the time.
Yeah.
Ultimately, that the RAS, it's there just pointing out to you how you're correct. And that's the same as like when you want a new car, right? You see it everywhere. Your mind's pointing it out to you, but the cars were always there. But now you're seeing them. So it's like if the world's a bad place, then when you walk down, you'll be shown the negatives. The bad people, the angry people, whatever. But someone thinking the world is a good place can be walking next to that person and only seeing the good. So we're literally in our own little world. So what kind of world do you want to be in? It was actually the first video I did on my Spiral Up channel. It's you know, the biggest question is the world a good place or a bad place? You know, like ultimately, how do you see it? Is it for you or is it against you?
Mm.
Because, you know, I think once until we sort of address that question, it's a bit, you know, it's a bit hard to go forward. Like if it's against you, then you know, you might want to, you know, sort of go back and recapitulate and go, you know, why is it against you? And the same is it for you? Because it's just perspective, right? It's all happened already, you know. My dad was, you know, really bad and, you know, left the family and it sucks and look at poor little me. But maybe that was to give you the lessons to grow into a better man who can do more and who goes out and achieves more. You know, so we can look at it both ways. So, you know, I think that's, you know, a good question. You know, is the world a good place or a bad place?
Mhm. Mm. Yeah, that's, I mean, I always say everything's happening for you, not to you.
Yeah.
And when you really understand that, then even the things that you would think don't fit in that category, they do as well. And that's why I think this is a dream. I think we're dreaming, and therefore
100%.
it's
Yeah.
not, it's okay. And everything's gonna, like, if I were to, I've said this before, but if I just go in any direction, I'll survive. I'll just walk into the mountains. I know something will happen that'll allow me to, a window of opportunity will present itself within the dream that allows me to be okay, to find a way forward. And I've done this. I put on a backpack and gone into the Rocky Mountains for weeks at a time, and with just water filters, and had to, really got to sketchy places where it was like, okay, shit, we really put ourselves in a very unique challenge. But you learn so much when something happens. Like, real magic miracles do occur even in the middle of nowhere. People come out of the woodwork literally. Like, it's
Literally.
it's a trip. So
Yeah, totally.
I, I figure that's the self-education part of wishing, or wishing in action maybe is intent, or praying and pray. I figure that's the difference in, like, if you know, it's the same word, to pray and to become prey. You know, when you're asking someone to help you, or even a god, you know, even a spirit, even someone else, you're telling the world you don't have it, right? You know, you please to help me change this, please, you know, help me, or I need $1,000 before I can do this trip, as you said, or maybe like every time I've hurt my body, or I've hurt a part of myself, or my guts or something, I never got better sitting on my ass.
yeah.
It's very funny. Sometimes I sat around for 3 or 4 days and my foot would still hurt when I hurt it, or my arm would, but it was getting up and exercising, or doing the walking, or doing the effort, or, you know, going through the, you know, I like sumo since I live in Japan, and there's an old sumo saying, you know, heal in the ring. You know, basically, you know, you don't sit on your ass, you know, you get up and you heal in the ring. And life is like that, I figure. Like, oh, you know, I just got to get over this relationship first, or, you know, I just got to save $5 more thousand, or, you know, in 2 weeks I'll be ready, you know, to make that journey with you, you know, come back when I'm feeling stronger. And it's never going to happen. You know, you make yourself stronger by being stronger. You make yourself ready by being ready, right? You grow your power by growing your power. You go in another direction, as Joel said, and learn to live with magic by going in another direction and living with magic. I mean, life is very simple. You know, reasonably speaking, it's not so complicated. I think the difficulty comes in people being afraid to surprise even themselves about themselves. Like I said, you know, people, you know, you're worried other people have to hold up your reality, but people could be more worried about them holding themselves up in a reality that's not making them happy, because they're the one, you know, holding up their dream by their intent, their thoughts, their beliefs, their purpose, their background, you know, and hidden and not hidden. And that's why, and we've talked about it a few times in this chat, the recapitulation, I would feel, is essential, because then you get to see where you've made all of these, you know, detours and beliefs and systems and intent that only you can, you know, untie, direct, clean, as Campbell said with the statue, you know, carve, you know, however you want to look at it. There's a million ways you can look at having to, you know, to change yourself for yourself, and this will help you. I mean, maybe that's your destiny. What if it's as simple as that? Your destiny is fully understanding yourself. Wouldn't that be an amazing destiny?
Mm. Yeah, I like that. It's recapitulation allows you to reach the 0 point, and in that place you can redesign you can understand your magical blueprint. Because a lot of the things that happen to you are magical. Some of them you can go erase some of the patternings that are keeping you from evolving, though. And so it's not like you throw it all out. You really go and get to know like all the feelings that ever came into your being, especially as a little kid. They're like part of your dharma. It's like you were influenced by feelings that set the course of your life, and somebody said one thing one day and it completely changed the way you think about things, you know. And then, you know, like my cousin just being a little older and alternative and showing up for 1 week every summer, he would just talk about things that were very advanced to me, and so I was able to change really quickly as a young kid because he showed me uh he had the courage to go away from the crowd and learn things, self-educate, right? And there's a lot of natural knowledge when you just come out of it's like the contemplation becomes accessible. You just people call it downloads. I don't know, like I don't like that word, but there's another way of talking about that direct reception of and what shamans call silent knowledge or direct knowing. And so I believe we're all very psychic. I believe we pick up on each other's thoughts and feelings, and you can sense tension from across the globe, or not the globe, but the across the plane. And
The
you're
globe.
or what the Taurus field, the luminous magical earth, you know. I mean, it's so cool what we're interacting with here. We're consciousness interacting with consciousness, and we were dumbed down and conditioned, and that telepathy is not as easily accessible as it would be had we been raised without this archonic predatorial energy just constantly running
Mm,
its tent. And these are forces that don't sleep, and we do. And so therefore it takes a lifetime of possibly maybe getting to the place where we're unconditioned, where we're deprogrammed, and able to come out of the complexity and access the simplicity. The complexity is like the overlay, it's like the construct. Things are actually super simple,
mm,
and every truth has a contradiction, so it expands itself into where there is no truth. It actually just becomes pure presence, pure consciousness. And but along the way, we learn a lot about the difference between truths and lies in stages until we get to that eternal transition where, you know, it was all theater, it was all storyline, and then there is no mind and there's just pure presence. And that, I believe, is like dying, but I think we can have experiences that prepare us for our death so that we can have an alternative way of dying. I don't believe everybody dies the same. I think there's a lot of opportunity that we wouldn't be here if there wasn't some incredible purpose to it. And I think our conception and our death and everything in between and everything beyond I think we are immortal in that respect. But I think if we start behaving like we're mortal, we won't miss out on this life. As a lot of people they behave immortal, even though they know they're mortal. Shamans attempt to be conscious of their death at all times, so they're not taking anything for granted, and they use every moment to their advantage.
Yeah, well, the only thing that exists is life and death, right?
Mm.
Lorenzo has talked about it a lot. Is we're all going to die, but not many people, ever think about it. Or we think, oh, that's morbid. Why would I think about it? That's just a bad thing. But when you think about it in the context, well, that means my time here is limited. Then it can become powerful, and so that's the whole non-judgment thing, right?
yeah.
Like if you're fluid and you're not judging things, and you can just okay, take it as interesting and contemplate it. It's so much more of an interesting place to be, right? And all we have is now. We can't change things yesterday. We can't change things tomorrow. All we can do is act now, make choices in the now. And I think if we spend most of our time, I'm not saying don't make plans and don't try and manifest good things, but if all your time and is spent in the past or the present, well, what time's left for living? Because we are here, right? We are having this experience. yes, we're energy. Yes, there's other things around this, but at the moment, we're physical beings in a physical reality having experiences. So why not be there and have them? I kind of think if you don't do it, then you're just going to have to come back and redo it. So why not, get it done now
Yeah, and enjoy it,
and enjoy it, man.
Toltecs say that joy is the greatest accomplishment of a warrior. And so it's you actually the enemy is within, and it's not something outside of you. It's the ego that is keeping you from having harmony and access to, really incredible adventures. And those adventures could just be in your neighborhood. You don't have to, like, perception is incredible. We can start to unlock experiences with dreaming awake or becoming lucid in our dreams that bring so much purpose to the now. And in order to be in the now, I mean, in order to be lucid, you have to be, in that now state. And here, you have to be in your body. A lot of people aren't occupying their body. They're like
No,
in such the
here.
intellectual state that, it's crazy to watch. And that's okay. I mean, some people I learn a lot from who aren't in their body. It's like they're trippers and they're doing their thing, and I'm thankful that they are the way they are. But I see that and I reflect, and I'm like, oh man, I really want to be in my body. Like that makes me want it even more when I'm around someone that isn't. And I used to be very ungrounded, and I would take a toke and I couldn't get back in my body. I was just didn't know how to stay rooted. And it took a lot of martial arts stuff after a lot of shamanic stuff to sort of integrate and bring it all together, because expanding perception can be ungrounding if nobody's helping you or pointing out the benefits of or helping you with the reflection of the fact that you are ungrounded. You can go your whole life without really understanding how good it would feel to be in your body. Yeah.
I mean, I think one thing I want to add, since, this whole for part one, which may go on, dreaming our destiny, is maybe people are missing the forest for the trees. I know I was. I mean, look, everyone goes to sleep and wakes up every day. Everyone
Mm.
goes to bed and has a dream and wakes up every day. I mean, why is that part of us? I mean, the scientists will say one thing, you need to recoup, you need to regenerate, but maybe it's simply the spirit showing you life is a dream. This life is going to come to an end, as Campbell said, but maybe it's not a horrible thing if you're in your consciousness, as Joel, if you recapitulate, as the Toltecs say, if you get back to your wholeness, maybe it's simply you have one dream, then you have another dream, then you have another dream, and often enough, a lot of us will forget our dreams at night, but some of us won't forget our dreams at night. Some of us will remember our dreams, or sometimes yes and sometimes no. So maybe if you become conscious of your energetic system fully, and I feel this is the destiny and why we're here, you just wake up from one dream into another dream, but you get to keep the continuity that you choose to keep. Let's say the best of yourself. You go, whoa, that was a horrible dream. I'm so happy that's over. And sometimes you go, that was an amazing dream. I wish it would go on more. I mean, and maybe, that's the choice we all get to make, to dream our destiny, to make those conscious choices of what destiny even means and can be.
Mm. Yeah, well said.
What are you destined for? And I think ultimately, like, we get to choose, right? Like, we know. I'm at. What's, sorry, I'm on the farm.
They get to wake up.
Yeah. But I mean, it's a good question. Why are you here? What are you here to do? What are you waking up for? I think without some kind of destiny, it's hard to go to enjoy this life, right? But we also have this thing from society where they're like, what, you think you're destined for something? Sorry. You think you're better than others, do you? We've got this weird thing where that's really what we all need, right? Is we need something that we're working towards, that we want to achieve. But when we put that out there, we're told that that's arrogant and all this kind of stuff. Yet, who do then people go out and worship? Is the ones who have done what they want, right? So it's this weird
Yeah.
thing, and it's just really like getting over yourself. Like, just get over yourself. Like, it's it's like, if with the whole self-help thing, like, self-help really, like, the whole industry, like, because if people read a self-help book or went to a seminar and just believed it all and just went in, they would change their lives instantly, right? But the the whole system is there, the whole industry is there just on trying to get people through that, like get rid of all the crap, just get over it and just start. And so that's the ultimate answer, right? Just decided to do something that you want to do and start it. That's it. Because, you know, the secret is if you don't like it, you can change, right? And that's it. So why not do something rather than sitting around, you know, talking yourself in and out of it, writing all these lists of why you shouldn't do it and all this, which is all system stuff. It's all, how will my life work? Will I make money? It should just be, will I enjoy this? Will I have fun? Yep. Start. Don't just start. As you start, you'll make mistakes, you'll learn, you'll start to get, you know, work out the pathway. But yeah, people just want to sit and just work it all, like you said, stay in their head too much, out of their body. And when you're out of your body, you end up not doing much.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, people don't give themselves permission to find a path of heart and to walk on it. They feel that they're not worthy of it, and then they're like police guards if you try to do that. They like are like, how dare you? Like, you know, or I think you're going to be very disappointed. You're going to find out that the world is just not meant. There's not that kind of freedom here, you know, and so you have to like really not, you know, a lot of the famous musicians talk about this, that they had to listen to that inner voice and not let anyone else distract them from what they felt that they could do, you know. And then but then they end up with all this fame and they become drug addicts. And I mean, be careful what you ask for, right? Like it's a everything is you're gonna get what you ask for. And the trip that do you have the discernment to really contemplate what you really want before you ask? And so I just, if anything, I ask for joy. And then life continues to bring me experiences and lessons and experience, you know, just doors open for me to have more and more relationship with that ecstatic intensity. And then it's like a vision starts to form, and I'm being guided rather than like necessarily, you know, it's like I'm speaking to my future self, and it's giving me sort of the runway. It's giving me the go ahead and helping me to process the. And I mean, speaking of destiny, it's, you know, Carl Jung would say whatever he said about that, if you unless you deal with the subconscious, your shadow side, it it will rule your life and you will call it your destiny. Right? So for us to go and face our wounds, to get honest about our feelings and really do the recapitulation, we will we will reveal the thing that was kind of running the show. And it's a blueprint, right? So that's why really getting to know your blueprint, stalking yourself, breaking pattern, walking backwards, you know, observing the shadows, doing something that's people would think is embarrassing is very liberating, you know. Uh, I do strange movements for the Toltec movements in public, you know, by myself. I I dance really insane, you know, at concerts. Like I allow myself to fully experience things as if I'm the only person there. And there's just, you know, it's triggering to people, and some people are like really fascinated by it. And so it creates a lot of liberation on both sides of it. So there's just opportunity to even just going to the grocery store. And a lot of people think that in order to be free, they have to have a type of job that isn't of the matrix. But shamans go into matrix jobs on purpose, in order to learn about tyrants, in order to learn and observe the unconsciousness of the workers, be able to have conversations, mundane conversations, without losing your energy, because you realize your purpose isn't about your career, your purpose is about your freedom. And so it doesn't matter what job you have or whatever, you could pick anything and you'll learn something from it. It's like the simulation is constantly giving no matter where you go, but it's all perspective. If you look at it like, oh, you know, that's a toxic environment, then it's a toxic environment. But if you walk in there like, I'm going to free myself from the matrix by, you know, liberating my perception within the most difficult place, then you've really accepted the challenge of this realm, and you stop looking at it as a bad place. You look at it as an absolutely perfect place. And that's how I feel about it, that everything is perfect and as it should be.
Yeah, I'd agree. It's all for us, right? And when we want things, we have to deserve them. I
Mm.
think we have to deserve the thoughts and the things that we were doing to put us where we are, right? Like serve a new master, do something different, and that means when you say I want something, you're going to be given challenges,
Yeah.
and that's do you really want it? Do you deserve it? Because some people go out too hard and walk away,
Mm.
and you know there's no mistakes, right? There's only mistakes.
Mm.
Just take one, take two. If you stuff it up, take 150 if you need it. But they're just mistakes, right? That's nothing bad. It's just saying you've just learned a way not to do it. Awesome, right? Great. You're closer towards your goal. So it's just all, like you said, it's perspective. It's just how do you want to view the world? And if you want to view it differently, you can. You
Yeah.
just can. And you have ultimate choice in who you are and who you want to be.
Mm. Yeah, and a
Very
lot
true.
of really successful people in the Matrix refer to their where they learned the most was through failure. So they
Mm.
tried to launch a business, it didn't succeed, but that's where they really like found out what they were made of, right? So if you're not afraid of being embarrassed, if you're not like, oh, if this doesn't work, everyone's gonna know and they're gonna see me as a failure. If you're in that mindset, then you'll never take a risk and you'll be caught in the complexity of your fear paradigm. And so there's going to be times where we're put to tests, like leaps of faith are going to be required of those of us that are really here to really have an experience that is expansive. There's no way to stay in your comfort zone and have an expansive life. Yeah. Hmm. Awesome. Well,
That's It's a good way to put it. Dreaming your destiny. I like that. No way to stay in your comfort zone and have an expansive life. You know, every time too I go, I have a chat. Every time I do a video, I don't feel comfortable. I always hear that voice that says, "Don't do that. You'll be
sure.
horrible. You'll be stupid. You'll be silly. No one's gonna listen to you. You're gonna say the wrong thing." Every time I've done hundreds of videos now, and I almost always hear that voice just before I get on. Don't do it. You know, go away. You know, don't go into this uncomfortable place. But once
Yeah.
again, I've learned so much even in this short, conversation that it was well worth going through being uncomfortable to listen and chat with you two gentlemen today.
Thanks, brother. Yeah, I appreciate you being here, and I agree. I'm looking at starting to being a writer and really putting words on paper, and somebody mentioned writer's block. The only thing that writer's block really is that you've given up before you started. So just write terrible stuff. Just write whatever. Just write, and you'll break through to a threshold and you'll discover, oh, I just needed to stay in that discomfort of feeling blocked and it'll move through you, right? So that could be applied to anything. And so yeah, appreciate you bringing that up. And thanks for being here, Campbell. Any as autodidactic himself, do you have any final words for this awesome program today?
Um, yeah, just don't judge, don't put things in charge of you. Just everything can be interesting.
Mm.
You don't have to pick a side and this is right and this is wrong, because that's ultimately the biggest trap. That's the biggest box is I'm right and you're wrong. So yeah, be self-educated. It's the way forward.
Mhm. Beautiful. Well, you've set a prime example for us, and appreciate you guys very much for taking the time. And thank you to everyone for joining in and listening. And look forward to further talks with you guys. And we'll see you
For
all next
sure.
time.
Yep, I'll send some
Awesome.
links to number 1 and 3, and already number 2 is up on your channel. So whoever wishes to can watch all 4 of these. I
Yeah.
think they've been a wonderful, wonderful series that my inspiration asked Joel, and Joel said yes, and they've gone places that we both didn't expect, I would say, but more wonderful than I could have hoped. So thank you for participating in this, Joel, and Campbell too.
Thanks for the
Thanks
invite,
for
man.
asking
I'm
me.
glad. Yeah. Thank you guys. All right. We'll see you all next time. Take care.
Yeah.